Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing.
So I'm actually at a place called S9c, and I thought I'd do this review today whilst rambling, not of the verbal kind. You might call it hiking in the States. But we're going to go on a walk from S9 towards the famous Seven Sisters and do the review of this Aune S17 Pro Evo headphone amp whilst we walk. So let's start off with the little village. Now, walking up to the little green, it's actually quite a picture postcard type place with a little pub on the green and a big flagpole next to it. All the houses are made out of this flint material, and it kind of looks like the Cotswolds up here. Right, so I'm going to try and do this even though it's been raining today, and I shot my drone footage, which I'm also using for this video, in much drier conditions. So apologies for the continuity issues, although I have got the same shirt and trousers on as I had the other day, so not going to have issues with that. So S9 is about 3 or 4 miles from Eastbourne to the east, and then to the west along the coast you've got Seaford about 6 or 7 miles away, and then Brighton about 20 miles away. So we're walking now just up onto the South Downs. A little bit more about that in a minute. So one of the great things we have in the UK, as far as being able to go anywhere in the countryside, is the right to roam. So if you look on our Ordnance Survey maps, you can see that you can walk anywhere on the green hatched lines, the bridleways. This is something that people to the UK love, particularly our American visitors. So, excuse me, I'm out of breath, but I'm going up this quite steep hill at the moment, so talk more at the top. But back to this particular review, I actually had the S17 Pro from Aune for some time, and by the time I got round to reviewing it, it had actually become an obsolete model, and they brought out the Evo version, which I think stands for Evolution. And so I reached out to Aune and asked them if they wanted me to review that as well, or instead rather, and they duly sent me a unit. This is a headphone amp that retails for $800, €839 or £680. So as I alluded to, Aune, that's how you pronounce it. I think I said in one of my early videos that it's pronounced Aune or Aune, but it has a Nordic translation, well, that's how the way they pronounce it, so we're going with it. So impressions as a brand, it is one of those Chinese type companies that seems to hit above its weight, cliched as that comment may be. But I tried, and as I presented in earlier reviews, the S9c Pro DAC and the SC1 clock which goes with it. It genuinely impresses you, and that's not some kind of reviewer hogwash that I'm just spouting. So far as connections are concerned, the first thing to say is that because this unit actually has 2 sets of RCA and XLR inputs and outputs, it means you can use it as a preamp and a headphone amp. So obviously routing the outputs to other components, maybe desktop active speakers, or obviously inputs from a DAC or source. The front panel's pretty obvious that you get an XLR balanced output. It's a 4-pin XLR connection. You've got a 6.35 unbalanced 1/4 inch output and a 4.4mm balanced. And you'll see in the box you get this little mini remote. It's the same type you get, or a similar type you get with other Aune units. You can use it to increase or decrease volume, change input, and change the bias current and the gain, which we'll come on to in a second, just when I get past these sheep. The front volume knob is actually a multifunction knob as well, so you can use it to change from XLR or RCA inputs, to change the bias current or gain, or switch between the input as an input or an output, and you can change the display by having the display off or on, which isn't a feature I'm aware was there with the original S17 Pro. But just back to some information about where I'm standing. This is a part of the Downs near Burling Gap called Wentz Hill we're on at the moment. And Burling Gap is a gap in the South Downs, which are a series of chalk hills that were formed in the Cretaceous period about 100 million years ago, where this whole area would have been a shallow sea, and laid down by the shells of crustaceans over time formed the chalk, and then cut to 12,000 years ago, the last period of the last ice age. The whole of these hills would have then been shaped by that glacial scouring forming the South Downs, and they run all the way from Winchester in the west to Eastbourne in the east. So this amp, you can set the gain, obviously that's to do with voltage, and bias. Remember, bias is to do with Class A amps because they have a current that's always on regardless of the input signal, so the bias relates to that current. With this unit you can set it to high or low. The previous model had a 50 milliamp setting and a 100 milliamp setting, which was actually shown in the display. This one they've just gone with high or low, but I understand it's a bias current of 100 and 200 milliamps respectively. This amp is actually a bit of a beast, and using the XLR output and the high gain mode, you've got 7.5 watts into a 32 ohm load, so it's pretty decent. And if you go on their website you can see a list of all the different outputs depending upon the loadings involved. So like with the actual S17 Pro, this unit does get quite hot. The case is actually designed as a heatsink, so you shouldn't place anything around it, and also there's an underside plate that's designed for a similar purpose. But if you look in the display and you've got the high setting on, you'll see the red graphics in the display, and if it gets to 69 degrees and above, it will switch to the lower bias mode if you've got it on the higher setting, in order to obviously protect it. There's obviously no fans in this case, there's no fans on the back, and the temperature is actually the temperature of the output JFET transistors. I don't actually know if I'm going to get round on this walk because that actually looks like rain, but let's see if we can do this. I haven't got waterproofs with me, just an umbrella. Oop. I think that Aune have actually gone for a balance between sound quality and length of use with the high bias mode, but I actually found that in perpetuity I got extended use, you know, for an indefinite amount of time with the high bias mode. The temperatures were around about 55-56 degrees with my Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth planar magnetic headphones 32 ohm load. That wasn't the case with the older S17 Pro. After about 2 or 3 hours you'd have to turn it from the high bias mode back to the lower one, where you could get use in perpetuity without having to turn the unit off. So I'm using this in an all Aune system, the S9c Pro DAC and the SC1 clock. As I said, I mentioned that I reviewed that before. So I'm getting, I guess, what its faithful sound should produce, if there's ever a case for that. I'm also using my immutable Eversolo DMP A6 as the streamer on streaming duties. So we're actually going to go now onto the Seven Sisters. So we're turning along the coast towards Seaford, hoping the rain's not going to come in. It's actually going to get quite windy up here. Hopefully the sound won't be too muffled because of the hood that I've got over this GoPro at the moment. It's just like a rubber hood, but we'll try anyway. I think that one thing that did actually surprise me with this unit is that it's not overly toned for Class A, because I'm very sensitive to that and I don't like an overly smooth sound. It's natural, it's refined, it's resolute, and with really good bass extension as well. I was expecting something a bit too, or I wasn't expecting something too mushy, but I was expecting it to be verging on that, being that this is Class A, because that's been my experiences of Class A headphone amps in the past. But this isn't like that, and bear that in mind if you're considering buying it. It offers pretty good balance. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's hard to make a distinction of the sound of this particular amp to maybe a Class AB amp by its design. These are the 7 sisters. I won't actually go too far out, but essentially 7, because there's 7 uprisings in the cliff, if you like, and you go up and down 7 of them. We're going to be going down and up 2 of them. We are very lucky in the UK. We do have an amazing coastline. It's a pretty easy test to flip between the XLR output of the S9c Pro DAC and this S17 Pro Evo, and it's about better in every single area really. It's pretty emphatic, and notably just in refinement, naturalness, resolution, bass extension and detail as well. There's no, or rather there's much less hard edges as you'd expect, and for the price, if you've got the others, I'd have a look at this, because it's a real round off of this system with the DAC and the clock for not really that much cash. As part of this review, I also got sent Aune's AR5000 headphones. I'm going to put some specs up and do some more details on this at the end of the video, because I don't have the time and insights to have a look into them right now, but I will do as part of this video. Very dynamic, very comfortable as well, and quite a bit better than my now obsolete Grado headphones, which were around about the same price. Quite surprised what you get with these. They're apparently a unique design. They have a 50mm dynamic driver, but other unique features that I'll talk about at the end of this video. One thing to say here is that this coastline is absolutely littered with monuments, because this is what the British Air Force would have seen when returning from Germany in the war, these cliffs, and would have been so welcoming. And the whole of this coastline is littered with monuments to our ex-forces. I'm not sure whether this is one, and anyway, let's carry on. I'm not going to lay claim to this amp being of a certain quality against other amplifiers at a similar price, simply because I haven't tried any others at a similar price, just purely amplifiers. And also it pushes my role as a reviewer up against the ceiling as to what I can and can't say if I'm to get further products. But I would say that this is a much more refined, natural and organic amplifier than Theo's R7 and R9. That said though, they are all-in-one amplifiers with streaming capability built in, so you'd perhaps expect this to be the better performer in terms of its capabilities as an amplifier. So what are the things I don't actually like about the Aune S17 Pro Evo? Well, the first thing is the fact that the power switches are at the back, but I would preface that comment with saying that these are desktop units, and Aune is principally a headphone stroke desktop style manufacturer. That's not to say you can't use this stuff in hi-fi, and it's very, very good in hi-fi, but it does mean maybe putting it on the top of your rack or in the middle, rather on the top, not in the middle. In the middle, you have to do this kind of reach around over the top of the unit to the back, which I didn't like. And there's that. Obviously on a desk there's no problem at all. The other thing that I didn't like is the manuals, which is a bit of a bugbear of mine, because I like to look at the manual to see exactly everything the unit does, which is all the button presses and features all in one place. You have to look at manuals in the box itself, to, or cards, rather quick start cards, to suss all that stuff out. So I think Aune, in doing that and adding that, could be beneficial for them in terms of marketing perspective, to enable people to see exactly how you use this before they buy it. One quick last thing to say about this area before we conclude on this product. If you come on the South Downs in Sussex, you can go to places like Wolstonbury, Chanctonbury Ring and the Trundle at Chichester, and they are all Neolithic hill forts of Neolithic, Bronze Age type ages, where if you do a drone shot above them, you can see the actual structure of the old hill fort. These are ridiculously old. We're talking obviously thousands of years old. In summary, my thoughts about the S17 Pro Evo is that it's above average sound and build. There's nothing superfluous to requirements, very competitive, and dare I say it, probably a lot more competitive than what you might be able to get in the shops from your retailer. Chi-fi, people call it. Whether that's a derogatory term, I don't think it's particularly fair. This stuff is just, some of this stuff is just amazing for what it does at the money. And yeah, I mean, walk on Aune, and like I've been doing, walk on as we are, probably walk on to the pub now. Thanks very much for watching. One final thing to say just before the light goes. I just want to say thank you for all the people that have supported this channel over the years. I appreciate. Recently I haven't been doing that much content. I've been concentrating on my creative efforts and creative business. So thanks for tuning in now. Do keep subscribed, because you never know how this might go in the future. And also, oh, the light's already gone there. If you do have any products yourself that you'd like to review, or maybe you'd like to send me some products, if you particularly want me to review those, maybe in exchange for some products I have, then do get in contact. And obviously if you're a brand and you'd like me to do a review, then please do so as well. But until the next video, I can't say when that's going to be. See you soon. Take care. Bye.